Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, gentlemen. It sounds like it's going to get cold back home.
Yeah, unusually cold because we don't see 20-degree weather that often. But certainly January is the time that we see it. I'll tell you, it's going to be one of those weeks this week. Pipes and people and pets and plants and all those things you got to worry about.
That's right. Everybody make sure you leave your faucet dripping, that your pipes are wrapped, that you're ready, because it sounds like it's going to get bitter cold. So before I came up to D.C. last night, but before I left, I took all the plants in and made sure I had my faucet covers on and tried to get as prepared as I could, because it is going to get cold, and we're not used to those multi-20-degree nights. So everybody better try to stay warm.
Well, Ted's got a grandson that's very fond of you because you took your picture with him, and he said that he would be happy to go to your house and make sure everything was okay.
Well, I appreciate that. And Ted's great grandson is a great young man, lives in my community. He was on the Mayor's Youth Council not too long ago and had a chance to see him at an event that he was working. And he and I actually got to take a picture and send it to Ted. So I know Ted is proud of his grandson. I know he was over there during Christmas, getting a chance to spend some time with him over the holidays. And so that is a fine young man, and he's got a bright future ahead.
What you think, Ted?
Well, I think he takes after his grandfather.
No doubt.
That's right. He does. What would we do without Ted here? I'll tell you, he's got the institutional knowledge that everybody needs around him for the radio business. He's been in the business 50-something years, so he knows a thing or two about radio. Anyway, we can move on to some of the more important things that are going on. First of all, I'd like to talk to you about the terrorist attack that happened in New Orleans. What are your thoughts on that?
Of course, our hearts and prayers, thoughts and prayers go out to the victims, the family of those that lost loved ones. Especially troubling because it hits home for so many of us, particularly down there in South Mississippi. Y'all are so close to New Orleans, but so many of us in Mississippi consider New Orleans to kind of be an adopted part of our state. I mean, I have spent numerous weekends down there watching Saints games and just going down there to enjoy the hospitality. And so that is almost like a part of our home state. And to see that New Orleans was the target early in the morning hours of January 1st is extremely heartbreaking. I will tell you that we were briefed, being members of Congress, were briefed yesterday by phone, by the FBI, by the Department of Homeland Security. We will get a more in-depth briefing once we're all back in D.C. this week, where they can share some additional information that they weren't able to share by phone. But they're working the case extremely hard. At this point, it does not appear they've not identified anyone that Jabbar, who was the driver of the vehicle who was killed, that he was working with. There were original reports that there were additional suspects. Those reports were not accurate. They are continuing to try to see if they can develop a link between what happened in New Orleans and what happened later that day in Las Vegas. There was also what is now being investigated as a probable terrorist attack there in Las Vegas, where you had a vehicle which was rented that was that blew up outside of the Trump Hotel. One of the common denominators of those two is the same app was used to rent both the vehicles. People now, instead of going to Hertz or Navis and rental cars like we've always done, you can now rent your car to individuals online. And both of these cars, the New Orleans and the Las Vegas, were rented through the same application. And so law enforcement is trying to run leads down. As of yesterday, they were conducting additional search warrants in locations across the country. They were also analyzing electronic devices, cell phones that had been recovered. And so they are working extremely hard. The first 24 to 48 hours are extremely important. And I think that the law enforcement officials are doing everything they can, again, to gather the information so that then we can try to see if we can piece everything back together to make sure that there are no suspects still abroad. And I think it's clear that what happened in New Orleans was a terrorist attack. we are trying to determine now, was it terrorist inspired or ISIS inspired, or was it ISIS directed? Do we have someone who became radicalized online or here in the United States and decided to carry out these attacks without any direction from ISIS itself, or was one or both of these individuals part of some sort of terrorist cell that was activated on New Year's Day? And so those are the answers we're gathering. I tell you that there was a great law enforcement response. A lot of South Mississippi law enforcement officers went to New Orleans right after the bombing occurred. They stayed through the Sugar Bowl. They're continuing to supplement some of the law enforcement needs in New Orleans, and so we have seen South Mississippi step up to help our neighbor in New Orleans as they continue to work through the events of New Year's Day.
You know, I have a question for you, and I don't know if you noticed this or not, but it was kind of odd that the chief of police was on the air live and said in a news conference that, you know, this is a terrorist event, and that's what we're investigating it as, and we're going to turn it over to the FBI now. And the very first words out of the FBI agent's mouth was that this is not a terrorist attack. What do you think caused that? Why would somebody say that?
You know, we asked that question during the briefing that we had yesterday. The FBI agent, who was not the FBI agent who made the statement there to the media, said that statement was incorrect, that agent should not have made that statement, that while they had not at that point solidified that it was a terrorist attack, that there were things that were pointing in that direction. And the agent in charge, again, that briefed us, admitted that they should not have made that statement, and that agent was wrong in her assessment. You know, whether she did that to try to calm people's fears or what her underlying motive for making that statement is, we'll have to find out. But clearly that statement was wrong. It was inaccurate. And we need to make sure, as members of Congress and the agencies that look into this, we need to find out those answers when we're briefed in a more secure setting, when we can ask questions and get information at a classified level versus what we were able to receive yesterday, which was more law enforcement sensitive information, but nothing classified.
I just wonder. I wonder if the folks that are in her leadership chain told her to say that. I mean, that would mean something to me if you had the leadership of the FBI that said, "Hey, we're going to say this is not a terrorist event," and like you said, we don't know why, but that would be an interesting question. Who told her to say that, or did she just say it, on her own?
Yeah, no doubt, particularly if she was instructed to say that. That's especially troubling, and if she was instructed to say that it was not a terrorist event, who instructed her to say that? And why was the public initially misled about the motive behind this? Because clearly, I mean, they knew at the time that the vehicle crashed that there was an ISIS flag that was found there attached to the back of the vehicle. They knew that there were IEDs. They knew that the defendant or deceased had multiple firearms, and they knew that there were other IEDs placed along Bourbon Street, which thankfully were not detonated. I mean, all of these would indicate to people very quickly that this was, in fact, a terrorist attack. Now, whether it was a foreign terrorist attack or domestic organization, that might be something that the FBI was still trying to spin up. But what they said was wrong. What they said was completely inaccurate. And whoever directed them to say that, or the individual that did say that, she needs to be held accountable.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. All right. Thanks. So let's move on to another subject. You got a big day today. The 119th Congress is going to elect a speaker today, or they're going to try to elect a speaker today. And we've heard all kind of crazy stuff, and you I guess you would agree with the fact that if you don't elect a speaker, you don't do anything else like taking care of the election of the president, which would leave us sort of in limbo if on the 20th you don't have a speaker. And so a lot of people are worried about this, and there's some people with some pretty strong ideas, and the speaker can only lose, what we hear is one vote. What do you think is going to happen today?
There are roughly 8 to 10 people, Michael, who have not yet committed to support Speaker Johnson. One, Thomas Massey, has said that he will not vote for Mike Johnson, that he will vote for someone else. And you're right, based on the number, the small majority, Mike Johnson can only lose one additional vote outside of Thomas Massey. I think we're going to know pretty early as they begin working through the vote. What will happen is members will go to the House chamber. We will then all register our attendance, and then we will be seated, and the clerk of the House will begin calling the names of each member alphabetically. And so starting with A, ending at Zinke with Z. And so there are several members who are uncommitted whose names fall at the very beginning of the alphabet. A lot of folks whose names have B's and C's that are uncommitted. So just a few names to kind of look for today is Burleson from Missouri, Biggs from Arizona, Eli Crane from Arizona, Michael Cloud from Texas, Tim Burchett from Tennessee, Lauren Boebert from Colorado. So roughly half of those people who were uncommitted, their names start with B or C. So I think we're going to know pretty quickly once we start the actual voting process, whether there's going to be a big block of, say, 8 to 10 members who are in opposition to Mike Johnson, or whether it's 1, 2, or 3. If it's 3 or less, then we will be able to most likely get a speaker during that second round of votes, which I would imagine would occur very quickly after the first. But you're exactly right. We cannot conduct any business until we elect a speaker. 2 years ago, it took us 4 days and 15 rounds of voting to elect Kevin McCarthy. When McCarthy was removed as Speaker later that fall, we were for almost 3 weeks, we were in a holding pattern where we could pass no legislation, bring nothing to the floor until we elected a Speaker to preside over the House. We do come back on the 6th, on Monday, to certify the election. So we do have a little bit of leeway there in the fact that if we don't elect a speaker first vote today, we will be here on Saturday, we will be here on Sunday, we will be here till we elect a speaker. And we know that the president has weighed in favor of Mike Johnson. He has publicly stated that he is supporting Johnson. He has been making calls to holdouts. I know that some of the people who were originally skeptical of Mike have now pledged their support to Mike after having spoken with President Trump. And so I think ultimately Mike Johnson will be the speaker. The question will be whether or not he gets that on the first ballot today, whether that goes into several other ballots that could drag into the weekend. But I think nobody wants to see this speaker election go past this weekend because we want to be able on January 6th to certify the election that Donald Trump is our president-elect. And then we want to get to work on legislation that we can put on his desk as soon as he comes into office.
You know, I guess the president has reached out to some of these people to say, look, you know, what are we doing here? At least I would hope he has. And do these people, I mean, you know some of these people, do they realize the harm that they could cause the entire party by doing something at this particular time?
You know, I know all the individuals who were, you know, having second thoughts, if you will, about whether or not they're going to support Mike. You know, and here's kind of how I look at it. You know, if you look at the difference between Democrats and Republicans, I believe that in general, Democrats want to be led. They want somebody to tell them how to vote. They want somebody to tell them what to do. That's why you saw Nancy Pelosi. She was such an effective speaker because she had people that wanted to follow whatever she told them to do. As Republicans, we are much more independent-minded. We want to be able to make up our own mind. And that's what's great about our party. You know, what's great about our party is we're a party of freedom-loving individuals who don't want to be told what to do, whether it be by government or by, someone like a Speaker of the House. we want and we have that independent streak. And so that independent streak can be very good, but at times, such as trying to elect a speaker in a close majority, it can also be a little problematic. And so that's what we're working through as a conference. We're working through that Republican independent streak, trying to bring everybody together and get them on the same page. And we're going to get there. I can't promise you we're going to get there on the first vote. And if we don't, that's okay. But we are going to be able to get there, and we are going to be able to quickly get to work on the agenda that President Trump promised when he was elected in November.
Gotcha. Okay, Congressman, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good luck on the speaker vote today, and if there's anything we can do to help you, you let us know. I don't know what that would be, but we appreciate you, Congressman Guest.
Yes, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. Y'all stay warm next week.